My name is Josh Rollins.
I'm Jen Rollins.
And we are at Pataskala Grace Church in Pataskala, Ohio. And we are planting a church in Newark, Ohio in fall of 2026. My first involvement with Assist was during the first boot camp, actually. I was attending Grace Fellowship at the time, and Grace Fellowship was letting Assist use their facilities to host the boot camp. And so I've been interested in church planting my whole life, and I was like, I've got to figure out what is happening in our fellowship as far as church planting goes. We were at one of the boot camps, and the elders from Pataskala Grace were there as they were about to enter Revitalization, and I thought I recognized these guys. And so I went over and started a conversation with them and was just real excited to see them there. And then fast forward a couple years later, they hire a new pastor named Tim Wilmette, who actually moved into my neighborhood, and so we were able to form a relationship through that. Pataskala Grace is just a few minutes from where we live. It's in our community.
So I grew up at Pataskala Grace and was there until 2010-ish. I switched and went to Grace Fellowship in Pickerington and had been there for 12 years and serving there. And so when Josh first brought up the idea of going back to Pataskala, I was kind of hesitant, but it was a total God thing, and we prayed about it and said, when the time is ready to leave Grace Fellowship, God, you got to make my heart ready, and he did, and we were ready. I was ready to go when he brought up the idea of going back to serve at Pataskala.
Yeah, so I had coffee with Tim one day, and he said, hey, I've heard that you have a heart for ministry. I'd love for you to come on staff at Pataskala Grace. I'd love for you to be my associate pastor, lead student ministry. And then when the church is ready to multiply, we'd love to plant a church with you. And so I instantly said yes, and then thought I should probably go talk to Jen about that and make sure she's okay. And so on the few minutes drive from the coffee shop to our house, I'm on the phone with my campus pastor at Grace Fellowship saying, hey, Tim just offered me a job at Pataskala Grace. I think I should take it. And he was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been praying for you. And I was like, well, pray for Jen too, so I make sure that she's on board.
At first, I was excited to go back to Pataskala. God had definitely laid it on my heart to move on in ministry opportunities. But growing up, I did some missions trips and was really interested in international missions, spent a year in Cambodia, and really thought God was calling me there and pulling me back through Encompass to work with the ministry center in Cambodia. And so before we got married, it was really important to me that we could go to Cambodia together so that he could see my heart and see what I love in ministry and missions. If I was passionate to do it overseas and in Cambodia, and then learning the language and learning the culture would be so much harder, so doing it in my backyard and in our community has just really ignited and grown a lot for me.
We saw the work that Assist did at Pataskala through the Revitalization, and seeing the way that God's really used that church and the community to grow and to help people meet Jesus. And so it made perfect sense for us to work with Assist as our time came to start getting really serious about the church plant. There's such an opportunity to spread the gospel in an area that's very spiritually depressed and spiritually dark. And so we're asking for your help and praying for us as we seek to build a team, as we seek to transition out of Pataskala Grace. We ask that you pray for Pataskala Grace, that God would raise up the right leaders to come in, that we can hand off our ministry responsibilities there, and that way that Pataskala Grace can continue to grow as we go out to multiply in Licking County.